Are you wondering whether it's better to buy or rent in Canada right now? With housing price and interest rates on the rise, it's probably really hard to know what to do. Some of you might be worried that you'll miss out if you don't buy right now. Some of you might feel like it's safer to wait because there could be a big drop in housing prices since interest rates keep rising and rising. And there's always the question, is renting just throwing your money away? Or is it the safer bet right now? I'll also share the 7 most important things you must know before buying a house. Otherwise, you might get buyer's remorse and regret your decision. Now, I've been investing in rental properties over 15 years, and I bought 14 properties by the time I was 35 years old. So I thought it'd be a good idea to do a deep dive whether you should rent or buy in this video. So let's get into it. Many of us have grown up thinking buying a house is like the Canadian dream. You feel a sense of pride and joy. Or you could be like me, graduating from University of British Columbia, living in Vancouver, and feeling like buying a house is unreachable. It's like the great Canadian nightmare. On the other hand, for a person who's living in more affordable cities like Kingston, Regina, Saskatoon, a house could be within reach. So let's look at a starter home, a 3-bedroom home in Ottawa. Nothing fancy. It's going for $599,000, which is just shy of the average price of a home in Ottawa. So the first thing I want to do is let's look at the numbers. Let's math it up. Let's compare apples to apples, whether you should rent or buy. Now, the comparable rent in this area is $27.50. In fact, in the listing, it actually shows what it's rented for. Now, going into this calculator, I'm going to put a down payment of just under 10%. I'm also going to have amortization of 25 years. And then I'm going to put in an interest rate of 5.34%. And let's just assume the house prices only go up 3% a year. So if we rented the place at $27.50 and using a time frame 5 years, interestingly enough, it actually makes more sense to rent rather than buy in this situation. But let's talk about opportunity cost, because obviously you're actually building equity if you live in the home. But if you decide to rent and forego that down payment and invested in the stock market like the S&P 500, you could potentially also be building your wealth over time. So let's just say this home appreciates in value 5% a year, meaning this $599,000 house could actually grow and be worth $760,000 over the 5-year period. And if you stayed in the same home for 10 years, it could be close to $1 million. But then at the same time, if you decide to rent and you're clever enough to take that $60,000 and invest in the S&P 500 so that you could also be building your wealth over time, your $60,000 invested into the S&P 500, which grew amazingly beautiful bull market at 10% annually year after year, well, your 60K could turn into 140K over a 10-year period. But of course, there's so many assumptions in those two scenarios. In the buying situation, sure, it sounds great that housing prices go up. But if you bought a super McMansion and put in $200,000 in renovations, then obviously it doesn't make any sense. Or if you bought a home in a small town and the population is actually dwindling, well, housing prices actually can go down. So that's why it's so important to stay to the very end of the video where I share the 7 most important things you must know before you buy a house. Otherwise, you could have buyer's remorse. But before we do that, we got to talk about the psychological factors, because obviously it's not all about money. Now, when it comes to renting, well, there's a lot of flexibility. You could live in whatever city you want to. You have full freedom and no commitment. But at the same time, there's a lot less control. You could get evicted because your landlord could sell the unit and you may have to move every few years. Also, there's a lot less personalization. You can't modify another home according to your style because, well, you can't just demolish a room or change the landscaping, which can feel restrictive. On the other hand, owning a home offers a feeling of long-term security. And this is incredibly important when you start having a family. You don't want to be moving every few years. Then there's a sense of personalization where you can change the house according to your style, which fosters a deeper sense of ownership and attachment. But then owning a house requires a long-term commitment. And a lot of us can get super emotional with a home and overspend on renovations. And there's a lot of upkeep when it comes to a home. Your furnace breaks down, your roof needs replacement. All that can really add up in costs. Now, if you're renting, you could just text your landlord and get it fixed without costing you an arm and a leg. If you're feeling compelled that you must buy your very own home, here are 7 things you must absolutely know. Number 1, money is made on the purchase, not the sale. So negotiate hard. Try to not pay market value. Try to find a discount. Number 2, keep within your budget. That means if you're single, no more than 3 times your gross salary. Or if you're living with a partner or you have a family, no more than 3 times your total gross income is your maximum budget. The worst thing that could happen is having the home own you. Now I understand probably 3 times your total family income is probably unachievable in cities like Vancouver or Toronto. So think outside the box. How can you make it so that it becomes affordable? Can you rent out that extra room as an Airbnb? Or convert that basement suite as an income suite and start collecting rental income to subsidize your mortgage. Or if Airbnb sounds like too much work, you could rent out that room to foreign students and collect a decent income and subsidize your mortgage. Number 4, negotiate your commission because everything is negotiable. Number 5, there's always another property to buy, even if you miss out on the current one. Number 6, how stable is your career? Maybe you're working for a startup and obviously the security of your job is unpredictable. Or maybe you just moved into a new city and you haven't decided if you really like that city. Then buying a home and having the responsibility of a mortgage is probably too risky for you. Number 7, this is my favorite. As you build more and more equity, you can eventually move on and work towards your forever home, your dream home. Just don't do it on your first home. Rather, start with a starter home, which is a townhome in Ottawa or a condo in Vancouver, and start building equity. And then you can work up towards your forever home. Now, if you want to learn how I bought one of my homes for $0, definitely check out this video up here. And if you're interested in investing in real estate, I have a whole playlist of how to invest in real estate in Canada. Check out the playlist out here. Hopefully, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.